Gast Kawasaki two-stroke triple fans. This video is for you. Stay with us because we're going to take a close look and get the story behind a historic H1 500, the first H1 the 9-second zone. We're going to talk to the man who built it many years later, the legendary Paul Gast. And after 13 years of sitting dormant, we're going to see how this motorcycle performed at the Super Eliminator two-stroke race at the Dash for Cash at US 131 Motorsports Park in Martin, Michigan. Enjoy the sweet sounds of two-stroke power. $10.56 for the little H1 500. Not bad after 13 years of sitting idle. How about it? This machine was the first 500 to run the 9-second zone with a man by the name of Doug James way back in 1983. Built by that man, Paul Gast, the professor, still at it today. Let's get some more information on this legendary H1. Drag bike fans, you're looking at an historic 500cc machine now owned by Jeff. How you doing, Jeff?
Pretty good, man.
Give me the last name one more time.
Anzal Dua.
From?
Potterville, Michigan.
We're having a great time at this race. We're celebrating two strokes. This This machine has a lot of history. Tell me about it.
Absolutely. This bike is a one-of-a-kind engine that was built by Paul Gast and Doug James back in the mid-'80s. Back then, H2 two-strokes were dominating pro stock, so they decided to build a 500 with all the tricks of the H2 750s. And this was the very first ever machine in the world, a 500cc, to run in the 9s. It went 983 at 1983 at Gulfport, and then it backed it up with a 986 at Englishtown later that year.
Truly amazing.
Pretty historical bike, and I'm just honored to have it.
And what do you think about all this interest in two-strokes this many years later in these triples?
I'm pretty jazzed up about it. I mean, it's an amazing thing. When we first got into the triples, I had no idea what was going to happen with them, and it's a fantastic thing. And to be able to campaign this bike again, thanks to David Derrick, we got it back to the track, and we're running in the mid-10s, and we're looking to go in the high 9s.
Good luck to you.
Thank you very much. It's
Piece of history.
Sweet machine. Pipes by Puppet.
Puppet built the pipes. How about that?
Doug James did all the fiberglass. It's a one-off machine. It's got transfer ports internally that are larger than the external transfer ports on an H1. They are massive. The rings only last about 40-50 runs because of the large ports. They flex. So yeah, it's an on-the-edge machine, and it's made to get it done.
Beautiful. We had to catch up with the legend himself to verify that story. Paul, you recognize that 500cc motorcycle?
Absolutely. I did the engine on that. That was Doug James's bike out of Pennsylvania. It was a wonderful family, racing family, and Doug was just an absolutely outstanding rider and tuner, and he did really good with that bike. I'm sure he won a handful of races and went fast as you can imagine. I mean, running 980s on a 500cc three-cylinder two-stroke. I don't know, to me that sounds pretty cool, but he just wanted to do it. He seen enough of the H2 750s run, so he said, what could we do with an H1? I said, I love the challenge. So we got down and dirty and into it, and he ran for a number of years in the IDPA circuit, and he did really, really good.
When you look back on those days, the triples, the two strokes, what stands out the most? What really strikes you from that era as something maybe you really enjoyed, something you didn't like? What do you remember the most?
Well, there was nothing I didn't like. That was the first 10 years of Fast by Gas. That's all I did was port cylinders and build motors. I was just a porting dust guy. And I don't even know how many I did. I know it was several hundred, probably even 1,000 of them, these motors. And it was a fun time, actually it was. And then the times changed and you had to evolve. But I don't have any ill feelings back on the triples at all. That was a wonderful time frame. And we used to have a joke written on the back of my bike and a few of the others, I think, that it said gas and air written on the tail section. And that was the joke because you leave it in the truck all week, the trailer, or the van, I think, back then, and you just put gas and air in it and go race. And they were very reliable and a whole lot of fun. the cheapest way to go fast back in the day was those. And that was part of my advertising slogans.
Well, I can tell, I wasn't around in those days, so I can't tell you 100% for sure. I was only born in '82, but you are still synonymous with two-stroke horsepower. Anytime I catch up with these guys, they're telling Fast by Gas stories. What's that mean to you that you're still such a huge name?
Well, we still build, you know, probably between 8 and 10 of these things a year, not for drag racing. They're just retro, high performance, same horsepower as Dave Schultz used to run in Pro Stock. We drive that on the street now, and about 150. And we do really, really nice restorations. So they're hot rod restos. They're immaculate motors, and they run incredible. I never get them back, it seems. They just run like crazy forever, same as before. And so I still have good feelings toward them. They're getting nastier, the cores, so they're a lot harder to build nowadays because nothing's clean. You got about a week's worth of resto work, but I enjoy doing them still. Yeah.
What did Dave Schultz think about the two-strokes back when you guys used to run them?
Oh, he called me up one day and wanted me to do his 400 triple. And he ran in the 10s with a 400cc triple, and that's just what he wanted to build. So I did the motor for him, and he went out and ran so fast it was really mind-boggling how little that motor is. The pistons are like Dixie cups. And one day he came up to me after some years of running this thing quite successfully, competition eliminator, I think they called it back in the day. And he said, "Well, could we build one of these for Pro Stock?" And I said, "Well, I don't know. Probably be fun to give it a whirl, though." I'm in. He says, "I'm in too." So he financed it. I built it. I actually built the bike through Puppet, who's of considerable fame. Puppet built the chassis, pretty much to my spec, but his design. And I built the motor, put it all together, tested it, gave it to Dave. Man, real fast. Especially back, they go faster now, but they're far more advanced now. We had stock ignition systems, and you know, the advancements have stopped in 82, 92, 02, 12, 38 years. There's been no advancements by me other than we do restos and stuff. So, yeah.
Sure.
Well, we'll show you one gentleman who certainly is making advancements, Smokin' Joe Molyneux. We'll have much more on him coming up on this channel, but he has some really trick custom parts on this machine.
Japanese factories don't make two-stroke street bikes anymore, so a lot of the popularity and participation has waned, but you still see that loyal group of guys out there, those super eliminator guys, pushing the envelope. I talked to a guy in Michigan. They're R&D in new parts. They got CNC stuff. What's it make you think of that these guys are just still pushing the envelope with these things?
I love it myself. I watch them, and I've helped their class out a little bit here and again, and they get kudos from me because I enjoy seeing these cool parts like we run on the triples. I didn't put them on there. They're making them, doing them, trying them, advancing, and you know, moving ahead with these things. They're incredibly fast, and I really enjoy it when they come out to the occasional Man Cup race and run. And I have not seen them at the Michigan deal, but I know they do really well. I have a little bit of a news story for you.
Uh-oh, let's hear it.
And this is relative to an H1 triple. The very first drag bike I ever ran was an H1 triple. And a week ago, we found it.
What?
It's a 1972 orange H1, and it's exactly as I parked it in the guy's garage. Another guy owned it. I rode it. We won the Canadian Nationals with it. And there's an incredible story that goes along with that, and I want you to put that story out there when I give you the pictures of the bike. We have the barn find pictures. The bike was parked in a garage for 47 years, exactly where I parked it. It was an absolute rot wagon, but it's still the bike. And I've got photos to document me riding it. And the one photo of really cool note is I'm doing a launch. This is before wheelie bars. I'm doing a launch, and I got the thing on the bumper. So it's straight up and down. My hair is halfway down my back, and it's this very bike. It's black and white, but so I'm going to give you the pictures before when I ran it, and the pictures the way it looks now, and probably a 2-page little overview of the whole story.
Oh, you're talking to a two-stroke fanatic and a Paul Gast fan, so we're gonna fly to wherever that bike is. And is it gonna end up back at your shop?
It's at my shop.
Oh, it's at your shop now.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. Well, we definitely at some point we got to get footage of this bike.
Yep. I'm tempted to get it to start. It does turn over. I'd much rather have someone else doing this. I'm so busy. I don't think I'll ever get to it. Everybody says, including my kid, you know, you're gonna restore it. I see him restore these things on TV. I said, that's for restoring guys. You know, I don't know. But it's exactly the way I parked it and exactly where I parked it 47 years ago.
Oh my gosh.
I was in my early 20s, and it's worthy of a little story. I don't know if it's worthy of, you know, rebuilding or anything. But
well, I'm a fan of a great story, and I'm gonna throw this one out there and let you think about it, because I know you're probably way too busy. But could you imagine if you restored that sucker and showed up one day in Super Eliminator and raced with those guys on your first ever bike?
Oh, that'd be pretty cool and pretty fun. I would almost have to retire to do that, though, because this would be a project. It's rough because it's been sitting. It wasn't outside, but it's got, you know, it's a spider web rust bomb.
I can't wait to see it. Last question for you, and this is for Paul the businessman. We're talking about how much we love these H1, H2 drag bikes. I go to Mecum auction. These suckers are going for 20 grand. 20 grand restored. It's like, what were we doing, right?
I had so many of those, it's unbelievable. I also will share in this story with you a story of a 1969 white H1. Was essentially my first triple, and I want to save it for the story of what I bought it for, what I did with it, and then what I sold it for, and what I could sell it for now. And I'll share that with you when we do this story. All
right. Well, we'll look forward to that, and I'm holding you this. I'm getting up to Buffalo. We're going to make this happen.
Well, I love it.
Keep the two strokes alive.
I love it.
Thanks, Paul.
Cool, man.
And we have a picture of Paul Gast's first drag bike. Take a look, ladies and gentlemen. Will it soon look like this one that once belonged to Doug James, that historic motorcycle? Take a look at this classic shot, too. That's Dave Schultz, the late, great Dave Schultz, and Paul Gast. If you love two strokes like we do, please share your favorite memory. Remember, it was not long ago that the H2 750 rolled pro stock motorcycle. It's great to see these bikes still out there. It's great to see many still sharing in the passion, and great to see 75-year-old Paul Gast still getting it done. How cool would it be to see Paul back on this machine, restored in Super Eliminator in competition? We want to make that happen. We're also going to try to get up to Grand Island, New York, up near the Buffalo area, to get the full story. Meanwhile, Paul's still kicking butt in the Pro Mod category. He just won the Darlington race at Man Cup and PDRA. It was great taking a trip down memory lane. We also wanted to show you the restored H1s that we saw at Mecum. Remember, this motorcycle was produced from 1969 to 1975 by Kawasaki. The goal was a 60 horsepower, 13-second motorcycle. That was unthinkable at the time. Kawasaki pulled it off in a 1969 test with a 1320 at 119 miles an hour, which makes this machine's 1050, the Dash for Cash, even more impressive. And the first 9-second run back in '83, absolutely staggering. We've got much more coming. If you love two strokes, if you had one of these bikes, make sure you subscribe to Cycle Drag on YouTube. Make sure you like CycleDrag.com on Facebook. We're going to continue to follow this story. We'll post more from the world of high-performance two-stroke motorcycle drag racing. It's always fun to watch, guys. Much more coming. And please do us a favor. If you enjoyed this video, refer some friends and leave us a comment of where you're watching from and what you'd like to see next in the world of two-stroke vintage drag racing.